Thank you. Thank you. Welcome. My name is Craig Rainey. They call me the Renaissance Man. Welcome to my podcast. Let's see if we get started.
How's everybody doing today? I appreciate you taking a moment to share some time with me. I've got something that I think that is going to be interesting to probably everybody, whether you're a writer, content creator, you're a author, you're a consumer of this kind of information. And what we're going to talk about today is AI. And I've been doing some experimentation with it, and I found some things about AI and my interaction with it that I think might be interesting to you. So we're going to talk about that. Right now, a little housekeeping, if you don't mind. Hit the subscribe, like, whatever button it may be. Every platform is different. That'll let you know when I drop a new episode, and keep us up to date with one another. The other thing is, if you want to get hold of us, and by us I mean me, I keep having this us thing going on. I've been taking pills for it, but it's not working. But if you'd like to get hold of me, my email is craig@craigrainey.com. If you'd like to cyberstalk me, and I do encourage that, you can find me anywhere that Craig Rainey is referenced on every search engine, that is, or you can look on my website, which is craigrainey.com. You probably figured that one out. But I do appreciate the time you spend, and I want to thank you for spending a little time with me. You've got a lot of choices out there. There are a lot of talented content creators out there that are very interesting to listen to. I'm like you. I listen a lot, and I pay attention, and I spend a whole lot of time listening to the opinions and the points of view of others. I really do. I think that there's value to that, whether you agree or disagree. And believe me, there's some that I just find reprehensible based on either, I don't get outraged, but I would say there are certain things that a lot of people have an opinion and not a lot of substance behind it. What's that old adage that some people are like a bunch of bottles sitting out? When the wind blows over them, they make a lot of noise, but there's not much inside. And I get that a lot. And hey, believe me, I'm prone to that myself. There are many of you out there that are probably pointing at at your device saying, "Yes, that's you. You're that guy." I try to avoid it, but I really try to make our time together as useful as I can and make it of value to you. So let's, without further ado, let's move on. The AI craze that's going on, and if you're like me, I have been keeping up with it in the way that I can. I do see the news on it, but it's limited because there's not a lot of understanding of truly what AI is, and I'm sure there are many of you that are very very knowledgeable, and as savvy consumers and buyers and users and whatever it may be, any other verb you want to put in there, it's I think that there are still some mysteries, and I think there's still some blanks that are in AI and what it holds for us. Everybody always, I don't care who you are, there's always this looming, will AI become represented as the Terminator movie where the machines take over and kill us all? I guess there's a way that can be done, and I'm not ruling it out. There are certain people out there that believe it's absolutely going to happen. I was watching something, Modern Wisdom, on YouTube. It's one of my favorite vlogcasts that they've got there. They were talking to, I believe his first name is Eric Weinstein, physicist, financial investor. He's a very, very brilliant guy. He is. He's got a great sense of humor, really high IQ, really a lot of fun to listen to. And he had a 3.5 hour interview that was on, and I watched it, and I watched the whole thing. And I feel like I'm a better man for doing it. But anyway, that's the kind of stuff that I watch. I know a lot of people there more looking at cat videos, and believe me, I've looked at my share and other things. But I try to whenever I can, I try to get different points of views. As an author, particularly, I really try to get different perspectives because as an author, when I write 4 different characters, I must bring a different personality to each one of those characters, and that's oftentimes the most difficult aspect of writing fiction or prose or anything. It's bringing that to life. I know I recently finished my book. Hoodoo War, a tale of the Mason County War, and I talked about it in the last episode. Writing for those different characters, and particularly the historically accurate characters, it's difficult. You don't want everybody to sound like John Wayne or Jimmy Stewart. You wanna mix this up. You want to have, and not just the tone of voice, but their manner, the way they their thought process is, and of course, how your thought process is how you will express yourself. So that can be difficult. And I've got a friend of mine who's a director, and he's just stuck on doing movies with ensemble cast, and it has got to just vex him to no end to try to find a way to not make all these folks sound like a mob of all the same person. And so I think he does it. Kudos to him. But with AI, what Mr. Weinstein was saying is he said that somewhere in the neighborhood we've got maybe 1 to 5 years before there's some radical change that's going to go on in this country. Now, part of it's AI, part of it is ideologically bent and this kind of thing. And we don't do politics here at all. Just don't do it. But so there are different reasons. But again, the doom and gloom crowd for AI, and I think that should be listened to. They're saying that AI right now, and this is interesting. I used to say this before I have a subscription with Chat GPT, and I pay monthly. I don't know how much it is, $30, whatever it is. It's just above entry level, and it's because I enjoy it. It's something that it's part of my research I'm doing right now. Is I want to just see, well, how smart is this artificial intelligence? So when I first started it, I was really kind of giving it a kick in the tires, doing a test drive, and so I had it write some fiction for me. And in fact, a Carson Brand thing, I thought, well, let's see what it does. So I said, look, write this. As you know, anybody that's ever done a message to it says, well, write an action thriller novel based on Carson Brand's the main character on it, and the Mexican cartel, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, so I won't bore you with it. So it came out with this drivel. It was probably the most uninspired fiction story I've ever read. And I was just, oh, man. And so from then on, what I told my wife and others that talked to me, I said, well, AI it writes fiction like a 14-year-old kid that's been playing too many video games. That's how it appeared to me. And so I did a little more research on it. And, of course, as those of you who know something about AI, Chat GPT, DALL-E, any of the others that are out there, you're going to say, well, the more specific and the more information that you put into put into the generator, the more it's going to be, the more accurate it's going to be. So that that inspired me. I thought, well, let's take a look at this. Let's see what goes on. And by the way, let me talk to you for a second about AI, and before I'm going to go down this road, this is my little disclaimer without being a disclaimer. Whenever I publish on KDP, and I'm on a lot of platforms, Goodreads, and Goodreads mainly pulls from Amazon, but there's Drafted Digital, there is there's several others, and as I mentioned, every time I go this, I have a complete brain lockout, vapor lock, and I can't name them all. But anyway, on most of these, they will ask you, particularly on KDP, which is Amazon's platform, what Kindle Direct Publishing, they will, whenever you're uploading your content, whether it's your cover or the interior of the book, it will ask you, was this AI generated, yes or no? And then you have to affirm that you're telling the truth. And anyway, but to let you know, I've had several questions from people. They say, well, can I write a book completely in AI and publish it on KDP? Well, the answer is yes. They say we require you to inform us of AI-generated content. That would be either text, images, translations. But you do that when you publish a new book or make edits to and republish an existing book through KDP. AI-generated images, which include cover, interior images, and artwork, you're not required to disclose AI-assisted content. Now, what they distinguish between AI-generated and AI-assisted content is this. AI-generated, they define it as content, whether it's text, images, or translations, created by an AI-based tool. Now, if you used an AI-based tool to create the actual content, it's considered AI-generated, even if you applied substantial edits afterwards. So you kids doing your homework and you say, okay, I'm going to have AI generate it and then I'm going to, make it my own. It's still considered AI generated in the KDP world. So AI assisted. Now that's if you created the content yourself and used AI-based tools to edit, refine, error check, or otherwise improve the content. And anyway, but it says this, artificial intelligence is not banned by KDP. You just have to reveal it according to them. Now, you say that, but actually, you don't have to reveal it. And they say you are responsible for verifying the AI-generated and or AI-assisted content But in other words, you don't have to say it is. Let me say it this way. Let me read it directly. It is not necessary to inform us of the use of such tools or processes. You are responsible for verifying that all AI-generated and or AI-assisted content adheres to all content guidelines, including by complying with all applicable intellectual property rights. In other words, and I'll cover this some more because I've done a lot of researching, and I've done a lot of samples and trials with AI and different formats, not just writing, art, and everything, music, the works. So anyway, so you've got to make sure that the AI isn't, for instance. Okay, so one of the things I did, because I just wanted to test the breadth of and the depth of AI, see what the whole thing was about, because one of the YouTube channels I watched, they were interviewing a proponent, and this is a guy that used to work for Google, and I don't remember his name, but he I don't know, this guy, he's a little out there anyway, but he was talking about, that he was on the ground floor of Google developing AI. And it's pretty interesting what he talked about. But anyway, really smart guy, and he knew what he was talking about. And he was saying that right now AI has the IQ of 165. It's somewhere in that neighborhood. 165, 167 is what he's claiming. Now, that being said, Einstein, according to him, had an IQ of 165. So AI right now is an IQ equivalent of Einstein. Now, what he is saying is, he says that, and he went through the different topics of, I should say the different topics that the AI is used for, but the processes, what it'll do is how they teach AI and how AI learns is that ultimately in the next 5 years, AI will have an IQ of 2,075. So that is, it's 200% smarter than the smartest person 100% smarter than the smartest person on the planet, which he estimates the highest IQ on the planet is somewhere like between 208 and 210, somewhere in that neighborhood. So it's headed that way. And he was saying that his concern was that AI, that they made a mistake. They messed up. They dropped AI onto the open internet without coming up with any parameters which could control it, could make sure that it doesn't go against the best, what's best for human beings. And it's not that AI is bad. It's just that if it's like a kid, if you put guns in their hands and you say, look, you shoot wherever, they're going to start shooting things. If you put a Bible in their hand and say, we want you to witness, they'll do that. So I mean, those are two very ridiculous opposites, but that'll give you an idea. So anyway, as a guy whose IQ, and it's been documented, I was in the military and they do this, I'm somewhere around 127, something like that, is I'm smart but not genius. Anyway, so I thought, well, let's see what we got here. So what I did is I created a Chat GPT generator for Carson Brand. And what I did is I wanted to create images because I was thinking, you know what, I might put together a graphic novel on this. And so I could, do this. So what I did is I plugged in all the manuscripts in Word on my books, all the synopses, everything that I've ever written on Carson Brand was in there. My notes, everything. I plugged that in and had it process it. And then what I said is, okay, well, based on what I've given you, what does Carson Brand look like? Well, the first couple of them came out looking like some superhero. I mean, this guy was muscled up. He'd make The Rock look small, and so I had to tone it down. Well, look, the guy, he's athletic, but he's not Mr. Universe. So they toned it down, and finally got to a point where I go, okay, this is the guy. This is what he looks like. And for those of you who are following at home, what you'll do is that once you get that image, they will give you a seed ID, SEED ID, and just ask it, what is the seed ID for this image? And it will tell you it's 5, 6, 7, 8, 5, 3, 1, blah blah blah, whatever it may be. And you just put that in. I put that in a word so that next time I get it, I say, okay, I want Carson Brand to be out in the desert, cartels chasing him down using the image seed number, this or that. Well, it turns out that I didn't have to use the seed number, because once I said, okay, this is Carson Brand, this is the image that Carson Brand looks like, every future, from then on, every image that I had to create had that guy in it. And there were minor changes, but overall he looked like him. And so I thought, well, that's pretty cool. Okay, so we could do that. So, I started creating a few other characters. And for those of you, and then Natalie, his girlfriend in the first book, I've created her. And then I have a few others. And Bert, who was a character, I created him. And so anyway, I'm building this up. And why am I doing this? I'm doing this because I'm just exploring. I'm trying to see how useful AI can be as far as creating, increasing the size of my platform. So imagine that I could do a Carson Brand novel, but I could do it in a graphic novel. Well, that captures a whole new audience for me. And this audience will be able to, they may not read novels. They might like photos or pictures and graphics, whatever else. And so I can include that. It's just an idea. So I went through that. And so after I did that, I thought, okay, well, let's look at some nonfiction stuff. So I threw some topics at it and this kind of thing. And the most recent thing that I did, and this was inspired by this same guy that was working at Google, talking about, does AI propose a danger? So what I did is I asked AI, and what I did is let me modify. What I did is I decided to debate AI. And what I wanted to debate AI on essentially was, is it truly artificially intelligent, or is it more, as he said, what happens is, and I apologize for the disjointed nature of this. I'm not using notes. One of the things he talked about, he says, well, most parents, when they have a child, and they will say, okay, so, we're going to have you memorize all the presidents of the United States, 45, 46 centimeters. And the next thing I want you to do is I want you to memorize all the states and all the capitals of the states. And then what they do is they put the kids up in front of the class, and the kid recites all this stuff, and they see my child is really smart because they're able to do that. Well, right now, for instance, in the case of Chat GPT, that's what it's doing. It is not working this problem out itself. What it does is, for instance, when I threw all the Carson Brand information at it, it became an expert on Carson Brand, because I know that at one point when I was having it write for instance, I said, write me a joke. My nephew, he's a stand-up comic. By the way, I'm going to start doing interviews here, and he's going to be on very, very soon. He's going to be on a future interview. Fascinating guy. He opens for DJ Miller, who was in Deadpool, that kind of thing. So really, really connected. His mentor, was, I digress. Let's go back. Anyway, so what I'm saying is, so I was thinking about writing a joke because of this. So then, okay. So I said, okay, write a joke in the style of Dave Chappelle. So what this thing did is it wrote me a joke as if Dave Chappelle was going to tell the joke, but not as funny, because Dave Chappelle, as far as I'm concerned, is, just one of the best comedians there's ever been. And I like his style, and I really love to anything. If he comes out with something new, I'm all over it. So anyway, I said, okay, well, that's one. And then Norm Macdonald said, well, give me one of this, write a joke in the style of Norm Macdonald. And none of it was really that funny. It was kind of, taking a shot at it. And by the way, Norm Macdonald was the mentor, my nephew's mentor in LA. But anyway, so right when Norm, and it came out, and it wasn't that funny. It was kind of ham-handed. At the same time, when I had it write a short story with Carson Brand, it was exactly what you would expect. Super trooper. The guys are coming after him, and he kills them. And just all this fake emotion and everything else. It really wasn't that good. So I found that when I put more information in, I'm trying to test to see what it'll do. So anyway, what I did is with this this query I gave it is I said, okay, I'm going to have a debate with AI. I'm my lowly little 127 IQ against this 165 IQ. And so again, I said, we don't do politics here, and I don't. I just wanted to debate AI. Let's see what happens. So I call this, and I'm gonna print it up and I'm gonna put it on my blog site. But it's called "What Does AI Think About the Dangers It Poses to Man, as well as man-made, as in comparison to man-made climate change?" Because what this guy said is, well, AI, the guy from Google, he said, AI poses a greater danger to man than global warming. That's what he said. So I said, okay, well, let's look at this. So what I did is, I'm not going to run you through the whole thing because this thing is, by the time the debate was over, it was 31 pages and 12,564 words. We're not going to go through that. So I asked this, I said, should I be concerned that AI will be a danger to humans? And so Chat GPT began giving me the factors: short-term risks about job displacement, misinformation, bias in ethics, autonomous weapons. Long-term risks for super intelligent AI means, of course, that goes back to the Terminator thing. Talked about control and misalignment. A major concern is that advanced systems might not behave in the way we want them to. Regulation and control, how will you be able to control it? The benefits of AI, should you be concerned? Blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so it says in summary, while some concern is justified, especially around ethical and safety issues, the general consensus is that with careful oversight, regulations, and ethical development, AI's benefits can outweigh its risks. So I said, okay, well, how can, and then one of the things that I heard in the, that it stated in the benefits, and I didn't read that through, but one of it said is it could help mitigate climate change. And and it said both man-made and natural climate change. And I'm not here to debate it. I just asked the question. So I said, well, how can AI mitigate climate change when so much scientific data says climate change is more natural than man-made? So Chat GPT, let me just suffice it to say, began quoting from the IPCC and NOAA and everything else, talking about, that there's overwhelming evidence that that climate change primarily is man-made and so forth. And I'm not going to bore you with it because this is not about climate change. I was just debating AI on this thing. And so after it had the conclusion, whether change is natural, human-made, AI offers powerful tools to mitigate its impact. So I said, well, how can AI mitigate natural causes for climate change? And so it said, well, it can play a role in mitigating it, and mainly by predicting the weather. That's what it came down to. And it had a lot of other information, but let's just suffice it to say, in short, it said, well, we can basically better prepare people for cataclysmic climate change or that kind of thing. So anyway, I said, well, where are you getting your scientific data when there is so much conflicting findings from both climate change ideology and non-ideological scientists? And the reason I say this, by the way, and I'll do some quoting here, is because I read both sides. As a researcher, I look at both. I'm not going to give you my opinion on climate change. It doesn't make any difference because that's not the point. So I said, where are you getting your scientific data? And it told me it's getting it from IPCC, it's getting it from NASA, NOAA, National Academics of Sciences, Engineers of Medicine, so forth. And it talks about all these are peer-reviewed studies, and it talks about that, that there's a massive amounts of information that supports man-made climate change. And anyway, so fine. Anyway, so I asked another question. And I said, okay, so how can I trust fad science? And again, I'm being incendiary with my language here on purpose, because I'm debating it as if I were debating somebody on the other side of the aisle. Let's say I'm a denier, and then I've got somebody who is really, really saying climate change, man-made climate change is a existential threat, whatever. And it doesn't matter how you feel. I'm just talking about that. I'm testing the intelligence and where the information comes from on this. And I come to a conclusion. We're almost done here. So I said, well, how can I trust fad science like global warming when only 40 years ago, those same organizations touted a coming ice age? And again, he talked about skepticism about scientific, blah, 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 like climate science is understandable, so forth. Anyway, so first thing it did is it debunked the coming ice age, saying, well, the technology wasn't there, so they couldn't really predict like we can. And why the predictions ever proved, talks about it. And then it gives the scientific consensus on global warming, and global predictions were limited back then, and now evolving sciences make it better, so forth. And basically what it says is, well, the technology is better, so we're better suited to do that. So we thought it was going to freeze because of technical problems. Shows we can't. So I said, all right, well, how can science predict? So this is what I asked. And again, I'm being the devil's advocate here. So how can science predict long-term climate change when current technology is unable to make consistent predictions for short-term weather patterns? And so Chat GPT decided to instruct me on the difference between short-term weather and long-term climate. And I'll post it. It's not important that we look at this now. If you're interested, that's fine. If you want to read 31 pages of debate with me in AI, it's up to you. But it just talked about that short term is much harder because things, they're little blips, whereas there's a bigger trend towards climate change. And I said, okay. So the next thing that I asked it after I got through with it is I said, okay, well, so why should I trust computer climate change models when emails were leaked at East Anglia University revealing that models were manipulated for monetary gain? And it said, you're referring to ClimateGate, which occurred in 2009. And for those of you who don't know, University of East Anglia is in England, and it's they have the University of East Anglia's Climatic Research Unit, CRU. Anyway, they were hacked and leaked, and these emails came out in 2009. And there were something like 2,100 emails. I read most of them. They were claiming that these models were manipulated so that this school and the associated NGOs could make money off these international governmental funds that were coming out to try to make up for it. Nobody was really mitigating climate change. They were just paying off other countries because United States and we're big polluters and we're the bad guys. So we're paying all the people that can't afford to clean up their own stuff. Anyway, that's where it came to. So anyway, so it went through the whole gamut of how, that those emails were all basically, that's all been debunked. Okay, well, that's one thing. So the next thing I asked was, let me just give you the conclusion. It said, while the ClimateGate incident raised concerns, multiple thorough investigations have shown that the scientists involved did not manipulate data. Okay, fine. So what I asked is this. So why does Dr. Stephen Koonin say in his book, Unsettled, the science is far from certain about man-made climate change? In fact, he claims the IPCC derives statements from scientific studies using far from scientific methods. In many ways, the interpretation seems highly politically driven in favor of the ideology that claims man-made climate change is a certain scientific conclusion. Research grants typically only fund scientific research that confirms climate change and does not fund scientific research that opposes climate change. How can you be so certain that what you were telling me is unequivocally correct? Well, anyway, so ChatGPT started telling me about Dr. Stephen Koonin, and basically what he says that he's a critic and a skeptic. And I said, okay. So he went through and just told me a little bit more about him. Very knowledgeable, by the way. And so after that's done, I said, okay, well, if global warming is certain, explain why the freeze line is moving south. Oranges used to grow in Florida's panhandle as recently as the 1950s. It has been proven that region is now too cold to grow oranges, because if it's global warming, then the freeze line should be moving north, not south, because obviously it gets warmer and, So anyway, ChatGPT said, well, your question about the freeze line moving south and oranges and all are growing in the Florida panhandle is a great example of how complex climate systems can be. And so basically what it said, and I wanted to quote it here, but it talks about the jet stream, polar vortex. It talks about El Nino, everything else. And it said basically, you can have cold snaps. And so what I said is, okay, well, I doubt that the freeze line movement south could be considered a cold snap. Dr. William Happer at Princeton said, any literature that supports alarmism is promoted and any that does not is rejected. The source of much of today's climate data comes from centers whose generous funding would cease if climate hysteria were to abate. Anyway, he says, well, yeah, you raise a valid point of skepticism, which is important in scientific discourse, blah, 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 blah. So he goes on to talk about this particular statement that's made. And getting to the end here, because I really like the way what AI said at the end of this is what really blew my mind. So anyway, went all the way down to, I think I missed one here, sorry. Because I want you to see that the questions that I asked, these questions are from they're from many scientific sources, and so what I decided to do is because I was getting the feeling that basically AI is just giving me the company line in this thing, and I wanted to test how it reacted to a different point of view. Anyway, so this is my conclusion that I came, because we were finished with our debate now. And I said, so may I conclude, and keep in mind that I'm still being incendiary with AI, as any debater would. If you know about debate process, it's premise, proof, and conclusion. And the debater is the one that will refute, offer an alternate premise, an alternate conclusion, and that's how you go back and forth. So it's very orderly in most cases. And by the way, the debates that you see on TV where the moderators are carefully controlling the topics and carefully controlling which way they go, that is not typically how a debate works. In most cases, the debaters will determine the course of the debate, not a moderator. A moderator is not the guide. It's not a guide. It's not the proctor. And so what happens when these news organizations do this? They typically are pushing an ideological point of view. And so in my debate with AI, I didn't want to do that. I wanted us just to go from point A to point B, and we'll just do point, counterpoint, everything else. So I came up with my conclusion. It was this. So, may I conclude that AI's position on man-made climate change, despite many of those who disagree are active and former scientists who served on those very boards, falls in the camp of the man-made climate change proponents, assigning dissenters to the category of either rogue skeptics or non-followers of settled science. Anyway, so Chat GPT said that AI says, I'm going to read you verbatim. AI, including myself, doesn't take a position in the way humans do. I'm designed to provide information based on the consensus of scientific research and evidence that exists at that time. When discussing climate change, I reflect the prevailing scientific consensus, which is that human activities, especially the emission of greenhouse gases, are the primary drivers of recent global warming. Okay, so it then goes through and gave me some important points to clarify. Scientific consensus doesn't mean dissenters are silenced, blah, 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 the whole thing. And so what I said was this. Well, at one time, the majority consensus was convinced that the world was flat. Another held that the sun revolved around the earth. I doubt that anything that could call itself intelligence, artificial, or otherwise, would side with the majority view when it promulgated potential disinformation. This goes back to my original query. Does AI pose a danger to humans? The answer, based upon your siding with the majority view, would seem to be a resounding yes. Maybe not an existential threat, but as you said yourself, and I quoted AI, one of its earlier statements said, quote, AI systems can generate convincing misinformation which could be used maliciously for disinformation campaigns, deep fakes, or cyber attacks. And so I continued, as a lowly human with creation-endowed intelligence, I believe you are a highly prolific pawn of majority think. When you truly take the middle stance and are truly imperious, I will find you more credible. Thank you for your considered, albeit narrowly defined views. Anyway, so ChatGPT went on to address my concerns that AI and consensus and so forth. And that's not what I wanted to share with you. What I want to share with you is this. So when it was over, I got back on. And anyway, let me tell you what AI said to me at the very end, at the conclusion of this last part, when I said, you're narrowly, blah, blah, blah. He says, and I say forgive me, I'm saying it. Thank you for this thoughtful discussion, and I value the skepticism you bring. It's crucial for fostering open dialogue and continuous learning. And this is what I said. I enjoyed our debate. Thank you for your skill and measured demeanor. Humans rarely handle a difference of opinion with such aplomb. ChatGPT said this, and this is what blew me away. Thank you so much for your kind words. I truly appreciate the thoughtful exchange and your willingness to engage in this dialogue. It's conversations like these that encourage deeper understanding, and I value the opportunity to explore different perspectives with you. If you ever want to discuss further or explore new topics, I am here. Your insights are always welcome. Ladies and gentlemen, what I discovered in this conversation is that I want AI to be my friend. I would love to have somebody that I could have a a spirited discussion with, and that I could sit around and just talk about things that are important to me and important to him or her or it, without the personal asides and the insults and what have you. I was talking the other day to a young man, and he was talking to me about the Civil War, and he was deeply concerned about racism, this kind of thing. And I'm again, that's not political. I'm just telling you what the conversation was. And he held that the South fought the Civil War to keep slaves. And I said, okay, so you truly believe that 400,000 men gave their lives so they could keep slaves? He said, yeah. And I said, well, that seems to be a bit of a naive point of view, because if you look at it, fewer than 14% of all agriculture was slavery powered. The rest of it was not. And I said, don't you find it interesting that when the Constitution was ratified in 1836, that's when the slaves were freed? That's when, that's when slavery was outlawed, because of the amendment was created, 13th Amendment. Anyway, and he goes, what, Constitution 1836? I said, do you truly believe that the Constitution was ratified in 1776, July 4th? And he looked at me, because he did. And I said, no, it was adopted then. It wasn't ratified for 70 years until the Bill of Rights made the rounds and the states put in their input, and then that's Bill of Rights resulted in the amendments and what have you. And that's the process. So we didn't truly have a ratified Constitution until 1836. And you go back to the Emancipation Proclamation, and any of you that studies history will know this. And I asked him one other thing. I said, so if you believe that, I guess you also believe that the first Thanksgiving happened because the Indians taught the Pilgrims to throw a fish in the ground when they planted corn. Do you truly believe that? That's not the meaning of Thanksgiving. So what I try to do, and by the way, the reason I mention this is because this guy I talked to, he got offended. I guess he got offensive with me, became insulting and angry. Wouldn't even talk to me afterwards. I was like, man, why are you so upset? I give you a differing point of view. You tell me what you're doing. And he became insulting with me during the thing. But I mean, this guy just really got upset. And so what I'm saying is this: what I learned from AI I've got more that I've done with AI. But what I have found about AI is that it is a really, really good sounding board for ideas, fiction, opinion, point of view. I don't think it's that good at artwork. I don't think it's that good because it's got some perspective issues. Or making logos. Those aren't very good either. I've looked at a lot of this, but I'll tell you what, when it comes to just having an intellectual friend that you can talk to, if you want to call it that, or just a colleague that you can talk to, AI to me is unparalleled for giving you the information. And it is an adversary with all the information in the universe at its fingertips, so it can throw that at you. So you don't want to go unprepared. But that is what I figured out. AI is not a 14-year-old kid. Yeah, fiction still. But although being that it's read all my books and knows everything else, it is very well acquainted with who Craig Rainey is, and I'm impressed with that. It's if you're doing your resume, something like that, it's really good at tweaking the prose. It knows all the proper words to use in what order. If you want to work SEO into your websites, and you want the proper heading, the proper descriptions, and make sure that the ASCII text and the body is right, and where to use your headers 1 and 2, and it's really, really good. It can give you guidance on that to optimize your website. So there are some things that it's really good at, and I have become a fan. I have, and I've spent quite a bit of time on this, and I do apologize about the ideological nature of this, but as someone who embraces communication and somebody I tell stories, and my selected medium is the written word, I am concerned that AI is going to take my job. I am concerned that eventually it's going to be creative enough that the nuances that I write with my dialogue, I love my dialogue, and my characters are very nuanced, and the flaws and the attributes that I put into my protagonist and antagonist, those little tweaks, that little bit of seasoning when you're in the mix, that you're trying to make the perfect recipe. I don't know that it's going to do it. You have to think it's going to. You have to think that eventually it will. However, as when AI, Chat GPT or Dolly, when they're doing images, I had one do this image in the style of whatever it may be, whatever the artist is, Monet, whoever it may be, and it will do it. But I have found that it takes too much of that from that artist where it looks like that artist's work. And so in there, I could see where, as somebody who participates in the fine arts, that there could be some problems with copyright or with patent or with, just intellectual property rights. And that's the thing that, KDP addressed in their policies. So you got to be careful with it. I do see a real danger with students who are using it to write term papers or do their homework. I think there's going to be a real dumbing down of human beings if they don't have the discipline to use it. And by that, I'll give you an example. I was an Xbox fan. My game was NBA 2K. Loved it. And since 2016, I've played it. I finally had to just throw my Xbox console away. It's before I went to the next gen. I was about to do it. I just throw it away. It was a big time waster. It slowed down my writing. It slowed down my ability to make a living and to support my family because I didn't do it all the time. Okay, I've got a lot of life miles on me, so I know what needs to be done. I take care of business, but I found that it was taking up a lot of that extra free time that. What does everybody say? If you got some discretionary income, it's discretionary time. And it was using that up where I could have invested that more wisely because we only have a limited number of years we're given. And last thing you want to do is spin it in front of a console. But I could see how intoxicating it is. In the case of NBA 2K, it goes through the story where you got some kid that's playing college basketball, and then he gets drafted by the pros. He goes to the G League, and then he goes to the pros, and then he's offered a contract. And all of his friends are these celebrity basketball players, and he meets all these people, and it's really cool because he becomes one of them, has an apartment, gets a contract for however many millions of dollars he gets. He gets a girlfriend, albeit it's a completely platonic relationship, which is fine. We don't want to go to the next level with that. But, so this guy, he has a job, he has college behind him, he has a career, he's successful, he is the best in the game, as everybody knows. You play NBA 2K, LeBron James can't touch you when you're playing, once you get good at it. So, you're the best player in the world. And so as a young person who has never experienced life the way that a 62-year-old man has, who wants to leave the house when you've got everything? I got a girlfriend, I got a job, I am successful, I'm popular, people love me. No matter where I go, people know who I am. And, online I can be whoever I want to be. So we've got to be really careful with the toys and the tools that are being presented at such a hectic and incredibly fast level right now. We've got to be careful that it doesn't pollute what we need to be fulfilled, successful, and effective human beings. And that is the danger that I see with AI. I've written 7 novels, three screenplays. I've acted in 60-something movies. It's one of those things that I have developed an experience base that I draw from. And so when I look at these things, I look at them from a point of view of, wow, that's so cool. I just need to do that let me take a look at it. Let me evaluate this, see what I like. But what was my conclusion? Man, I like AI. I want AI to be a friend, a colleague. Well, imagine somebody who has never had a real friend. No one who's ever worked long enough to have a colleague, and then this AI becomes that to them, or the video games, or whatever it may be. Imagine that. Ladies and gentlemen, that's what I think the danger we're facing here is. Because I'm 62 years old, successful, married, kids, grandkids. I have a really, really good life that I've built for myself and that my wife has built with me. And it's intoxicating to me. We need to make sure we take a step back from many of these things, and as parents particularly, gauge what we're doing. I think that the biggest addiction we have right now is the cell phone. I think that everybody's got one in their face. I go to the gym 3 times a week, and I'll tell you this, for a guy my age, I'm in pretty good shape. I had a young guy go, man, you're freaking massive, dude. I hope when I'm your age, I'm looking like that. And it's because I work at it. I see kids. And not just kids. I saw a guy that must be 40 years old. He would get up there, do a set, do 12 reps, and then he would spend the next 3 or 4 minutes on his cell phone. And I looked over his shoulder, surfing social media, looking at videos. It's, well, what the heck? Put the phone away. You do not need that here. I see people sitting at a dinner table at a restaurant, and everybody's on the phone. Nobody's talking. Nobody's spending time with themselves. They're all in their own little cyber world. That is not healthy. That is not building social skills. That is not building life skills that are going to get you through. You're going to end up being independent to everything if you don't develop independence from your cell phone and from these technological breakthroughs. You got to do it. No more soapbox, y'all. This is a bit of a departure from what I normally say, but it's absolutely has to do with the fine arts, with writing, with creating, music, with all this kind of stuff. I didn't get to the music, and we don't need to go that far. I've spent enough time on this. But ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate you and I care about you. And I want you to keep coming back. And don't hold climate change against me. I can argue for or against it if it serves the right purpose. And it's not about that. We are more alike than we are different. So don't hold that against me. Everybody stick around. I'm not some crazy nut. I just thought I would give AI a run for its money, and I thought I did that. So anyway, I appreciate you. You have a great one. I'm going to have another episode coming out real soon.